Well, Imani Boyette is one of 12 prospects invited to this year's WNBA draft. ESPN2 will televise the first round live from Uncasville, Connecticut. And Boyette heads into Thursday's draft with an impressive resume. This season, she was named the Big 12 Co-Defensive Player of the Year. She's the first Texas player to record 1,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 200 blocks in her career. And she also helped lead the Longhorns to their first Elite Eight appearance since 2003. To talk about Boyette's chances in this year's draft, we now welcome in ESPNW columnist Mechelle Voepel. Mechelle, what separates Boyette from the rest of this year's prospects?
Well, one of the main things is just she has what they always say you can't teach, and that's size. With her size and her defensive skills, those are things that are they're very valued in the WNBA. If you're going to play at that level, you have to have what they call a specific WNBA skill, and that's something I think she has with her defense.
Where do you see Boyette going in this year's draft, and why?
Well, it's funny because I think I've done about 75 mock drafts.
Wow.
And part of it is trying to figure out where teams that are picking high. We know, Brianna Stewart's going to go number 1, and Mariah Jefferson goes number 2. After that, it becomes a little bit trickier. I've projected Imani to go as high as number 5, in which case she would be in Dallas, which I'm sure she would love, and possibly as low as number 9, which would be Indiana. I think she could go possibly in any of those spots. I would be surprised if she fell below number 9. I think with Indiana would be a good fit for her. I think Dallas would be a good fit as well. So I think she's going to have an excellent chance of making a roster wherever she goes.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Is Boyette the type of player that you see making an immediate impact?
I think she'll play. It is hard for rookies to make a lot of impact. There are only 12 teams, not a lot of roster spots, so the teams are jam-packed with veterans who almost all of whom play overseas. And I think it takes a little while to get used to the physicality and really the demands of the WNBA. It's very different than what they deal with in college. But I do think that she has an advantage in the fact that she has so much of a family experience, with her brother and her mom. They've prepared her at least somewhat for what it's like to be a professional athlete.
Well, when you look at Boyette's game, who do you think she reminds you of?
It's really interesting because from a defensive standpoint, you look at somebody like a Brittney Griner, the way that she's able to really anchor a defense and help teams, basically being that stopper there in the middle. And I think Imani has a talent and size and instincts that are similar. Her offensive game isn't where Brittney's offensive game was when she went into the WNBA, but that's at least a possibility of somebody defensively that she could be like. And I do think that defense is where she's going to make her mark, at least initial in the league. And then as she, grows and progresses, I think she can become a more consistent offensive player.
Good stuff. We're anxious to see where she goes as well. We appreciate you, Mechelle Voepel, stopping by the show and giving us your insight.
Thanks for having me.